You're listening to The Brand Compass, conversations to navigate your way to building a brand fit for purpose and poised for success. Here's your host, 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗡.
Well, hello there. Thank you for tapping on this episode to listen to today. This is the show where we get into deep and meaningful conversations around where your brand meets the humans you serve. I'm 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦 and I'm your host on this conversational journey, and do I have a treat for you today? I've invited one of my really talented and smart friends to come and share her insights with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about a mix around evolving your business, spotting where maybe you need to shift or change, and even possibly cover some elements of brand personality definition. So I started attending Social Media Marketing World back in 2016. This is the conference that's held in San Diego, and it was one of the pivotal points in my professional life in that I finally found a place where people not only understood what I was saying and thinking, but that I could actually learn from and bounce off of. And in those early days of the conference, it was still relatively small, and you could really get to know people very well, and you even managed to connect with and have some conversations with the speakers. And one of those speakers was Andrea Vahl, who I've been following for a while. Now, you may already know Andrea, but in case you're not totally familiar, let me give you some of her background so you have a feel for the context for bringing her into this conversation today. So Andrea is an author, consultant, international speaker and trainer who specializes in Facebook ads. She's appeared on top lists on entrepreneur.com, inc.com and other leading business listing sites. Since 2009, Andrea has utilized her innate ability to make social media marketing, and specifically Facebook ads, really easy to understand and implement to directly impact the growth trajectory of thousands of businesses through her training and her one-to-one consultancy. She's also the founder of Facebook Advertising Secrets, an online learning program for individuals and agencies, and has welcomed more than 700 students through her program. Part of Andrea's charm is her witty humor, which she practices often as a stand-up comedian in her spare time, and she lives in beautiful Colorado and is mom to two almost grown-up boys. So welcome, Andrea. Hey.
Oh, thanks so much, 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦. It's great to be here. Super fun.
So should we kick off the conversation, Andrea, just to fill in our listeners as to why I wanted to bring you on to chat today? And that was mainly because I've been following you for quite a while now. And since we got to meet each other in 2018, I think we got to actually meet properly. But we've kind of stayed in touch. But I feel like over the years, your business has changed. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely evolved. I started the business as Grandma Mary, social media edutainer. So that was a whole different brand.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that just now. Yes.
And then went on to write Facebook Marketing All-in-One for Dummies, along with Amy Porterfield and Phyllis Kerr. And Phyllis and I ended up launching Social Media Manager School. And now I've really focused my brand down to just mostly Facebook and Instagram advertising.
Yeah, so it's this bit that I wanted to drill down on, and it's how you get to this point of actually, you know what it's like when you first, especially in our industry, it's incredibly difficult, isn't it? You start quite wide and then you narrow over time.
Yep.
But can you remember back in those days, like when you did start and then you did evolve? Because now you've split from the social media social media manager school. So when did you get to a point where you thought, okay, this is the next thing? Like, what were your triggers? What did you?
Yeah. Well, back in my day when I started,
I used to walk to school in the snow.
There was only 4 social media platforms.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
I know. So, yeah, and that is sort of the impetus that happened with that, is that when we were training on social media, I did specialize a little bit more in my blog around Facebook. Like I did in those early days, also talk about Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube and things like that. But most of my blog was around Facebook. And that is actually why I got the book deal with the Facebook Marketing All-in-One for Dummies, and have kind of always stayed mostly in that lane. And then we did, Phyllis and I launched Social Media Manager School. But as social media got more and more complicated, as all the platforms introduced ads and all the different, groups and things like that, it got more and more difficult to keep up that training and keep up that
content,
wide scope.
Yeah, as well. Keeping your how-to content up to date.
Yeah. Yeah. And and things were evolving faster. Like before there'd be one change every 6 months. And now, then it started evolving. Yeah, right. Hour to hour. Yeah. So that's the reason why it just got too exhausting to kind of think about keeping up with that whole spectrum just with the two of us. And I really was finding better success with focusing down just on Facebook ads, actually, as I really narrowed down just to even just that more niche content, because it was easier to keep up with, and I was having more success with that in attracting the people who wanted to learn just that one skill.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree with that. And that's also why we kind of moved on from being too broad and trying to then narrow down.
Right.
Because even within Facebook, like you say, with Facebook
Yeah.
then expanded to such a degree that there were like 9, 10, 11 products within Facebook, and it just became impossible, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So talk me through a little bit. So you guys started the social media manager school, but then you decided to walk away from that. Like that must have been a really difficult decision.
Yeah. It was really it was kind of upsetting for both of us. And because we did sell the school. That was kind of a nice thing. Yeah, we sold it to 𝗓𝗓𝗧𝗦.
Okay.
And that was kind of that felt good because we knew the school would then continue on and have a life. And Phyllis has continued to stay on with them and,
guide them on those.
Have that continuity in there too and support that group. And I think that's been really great. But it was it was a little bit traumatic because that was our group. We had retreats with the group. We had built it from the ground up into this amazing place where, over 1,000 people had gone through the training. I think it was like somewhere around 1,500 or more people had gone through the paid training. And so it was hard to do, but I knew that to keep my sanity as much as I could.
Yeah. As you can.
It was about like making it that choice.
Yeah. And then how do you find, and I mean, because, we're all trying to balance our being a mom, running a home, having children, and also trying to run the business and that. Did you feel like you also, part of that sanity check was trying to work out actually what is your ideal working life? Like, how do you want to be able to work?
Right. And that's kind of like been a huge guiding principle for me, is that I want to really make sure that I'm focusing on my kids and my family life. I am a big proponent of taking vacations this year. I took 7 vacations, and it is by design, right? It is very intentional, and I structure the way my business is built around making sure I have that family life. Now, it's not always perfect, for sure. I think when I was growing it, it was tough. I was up sometimes till 1, 2 in the morning, sometimes working, because I would be more present with my kids during the day when they were younger. As they grew, the nice thing was then my business could also evolve too. When they were, doing more school activities that I didn't need to be a part of, then it was easier in that way. They're a little more independent, especially they got cars. I didn't even see them anymore. So
they're also a little bit more independent now, aren't they? So
yeah, for sure now. And that's kind of the nice thing, is that, it can evolve, but I'm also still intentionally focused on making sure I get downtime. I get time to relax. I didn't build this business to work myself into the ground.
No, and I don't think any of us should. But it's hard to get out of that mindset from employee days, isn't it, to go into self-employment.
It is.
So you're focusing more now on the online program. So do you want to, if you're happy to, just talk me through the main offers that you just focus on now? Because I do feel like as soon as your focus is narrowed, you can almost focus all your attention on a handful of things. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, and actually kind of an interesting piece that I didn't even share with you before was that I'm getting ready to widen it just a little bit, and I have just a little bit widened it with my new podcast as well. So, for a while, all I was focusing on was speaking, consulting, and ads management, and then I had the course as well. So those kind of four offers. The main, and the main income from my business has kind of gone up and down depending on what was happening. So, for example, when I was before COVID, it's always like BC or PC,
BP.
I know, BP. Right? Yeah. So, BP.
Before pandemic, yeah.
So I was doing more. I was more focused on the course and course. I didn't do a lot of speaking, actually. I've never had that as a main source of income for me. I would speak like maybe once a month, twice a month, maybe. So my main income was coming from the course, and I was really focusing on that. I didn't want to grow the agency side as much. But then when the pandemic hit, what happened was my agency side grew and exploded because now everyone was trying to get online with their advertising. So I was able to respond to that and, really grow that side of my business up. And there was definitely some challenges with that too, as I had growth pains with not
team members
having
not
the right,
enough hours.
Team members. I was having to do it all myself and all that stuff. So that was kind of a little bit of a pivot. And then more recently, I'm going to widen my scope a little bit with my course and offer more of the other ads platforms along with the Facebook and Instagram ads, because I'm recommending that people diversify more. So I want to support that. Especially
Pinterest, I mean, that's been, growing. And obviously YouTube and, I don't know, Google.
Yeah, I mean, just Google's always been Google, but I think it makes sense for more companies to really diversify their ad strategy, because Facebook has been kind of erratic and a little bit, who knows?
And so also, I think it feels like they don't really want small businesses anymore. Like the way they're pushing things.
It's challenge.
Yeah, it's a big challenge.
Yeah. And they'll shut down accounts with no warning, and that's when you have to have some sort of backup method of getting people into your business and into your funnel.
No, really, really difficult. So, okay, so that's interesting. So that you're gonna, and we're gonna talk a little bit about your podcast a bit later as well. So, let's just talk a little bit about I think we've chatted before of how I use the Pearson Mark's 12 brand archetypes. I'm sure you would have heard of them already, right? So we use that. I use that within my group program to just help the participants to kind of formulate what their brand personality is. So of course, you're the queen of brand personality. So talk me through it. We mentioned Grandma Mary. So I think probably one of the initial experiences of mine of seeing Andrea was dressed up as Grandma Mary at Social Media Marketing World. Talk me through that and where you are today and how you kind of blend that comedian side to you.
Yeah, it was really a crazy idea that I had when I was starting my business. And the funny thing was, I was going to always brand myself as Grandma Mary. I in my head, I wasn't going to even have Andrea in as part of the mix at all.
I was just going to be. You'd kicked her out.
I know. I was just going to be this crazy grandma who was going around. And Grandma Mary's motto was, "If Grandma Mary can do it, then you can do it too." And and that kind of included both being a little bit crazier in your business and just having the step-by-step attitude of saying, this is how you do Facebook ads, and we're going to walk you through it. And it's not, I tried to make it not overwhelming. So the funny thing is that I really enjoy wearing wigs. I enjoy comedy. And so that was a great fit for me to have that brand personality. And it worked really well. And I really believe that my success and the reason my brand grew was because that brand personality was so memorable. And that is really, truly why I got the book deal. to write Facebook Marketing All-in-One for
I
Dummies.
haven't seen her lately, though. What happened to Grandma? Has she
No,
been
no, I
retired?
did. She did retire because I got a little bit concerned that I was needing her glasses. Maybe the wrinkles
bit
were
too much.
coming in a little too close to home there. It was like,
Oh, dear.
so, and the other thing that actually did come out of it is that I did feel like it was time to bring more of myself into the mix and brand myself. And so we had a little retirement party for her, and
Burnt the wig.
she retired. Yeah. I did tell people she's not dead. She's just, retired. Yeah.
She's sleeping a bit more.
She's at the buffet.
I think this is a thing that I had Ian on recently, Ian, Ian Anderson Gray. And we were talking a little bit with him because he was also struggling a bit with this element, which I think a lot of us struggle with is, back in the day when social media was first kind of starting, we were trying to keep things personal and keep things business.
Yeah.
And I think this brand personality thing, especially if you can use your personal brand, it kind of just helps you to be able to be more of you and just be the things that... Do you feel like it does attract more of the kinds of people that you want to work with?
Yeah, well, for sure. And I actually, back when I was doing Grandma Mary, I had people who told me they wouldn't work with me because it was too weird. And I'm like, cool. That's great. You're not my people.
Yeah.
I want to work with weird people. I want to work with people who have a sense of humor, who are fun. And so I think it does help to really show what you're about because people want to know who they're going to work with a little bit more. And I think it does help to, be a little bit more transparent, authentic, all those words that are, buzzwords right now. But I think there are buzzwords for a reason. And I think humor has always been a big part of what I do and what I like. So I'm happy to attract people who enjoy that kind of thing.
And also you get to be more of yourself more of the time instead of trying to hide behind...
I'm not a corporate. I know. I'm so not a corporate person. And so it's just never been like, I've had people tell me, they're like, oh, you should work with big corporations more because they pay more. And I'm like,
I don't think they'll like me.
I don't want to do that.
No, and they don't. They're going to fill you with joy as well, isn't it? Working with people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I really enjoy helping the types of businesses I help. And, and it's, some of these businesses I've watched grow from small businesses into multi-million-dollar businesses. And it's so exciting. It feels like I'm making such a big impact. And I think that when you're really clear about the type of person you are and the brand you are, you can attract that right brand, right client to you.
And also saves you time, doesn't it? Because it filters out the people that are tire kickers or the people that are going to waste your, waste your energy as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So we talked a little bit in the beginning, like when you went self-employed, and I think a lot of people have different reasons for jumping that employment ship. So you were like around, did you say 2003-ish?
Yep.
What was your impetus? I mean, everybody's got different reasons, as good or bad. Like, I'm going to start a business. Right. Not that I think anybody has a great idea before they do that.
I know. So for me, I was actually laid off from my job, and I had a 1-year-old son at home, my oldest son, and I loved my job. And like you said, it's funny because people always say, what, you were an engineer?
Yeah, so tell the listeners what your job actually was.
I went to school for mechanical engineering, and then I ended up in the telecom world, and I was a systems engineer supporting telecom equipment. So I would help walk people through how to set up their equipment, how to troubleshoot it, all that stuff. We would support them in that, and they had all different types of telecom equipment. So I had to learn all this different types of equipment. And I think that is really the thread that has been through my life, is really taking technical things, being able to break them down into simple steps, understanding what's going on, and being able to communicate that back and help people through a complicated technical issue in a lot of cases. And I've always loved marketing, and I always did want to start my own business. I started when I was 5 years old, I was selling my paintings door to door for a penny a piece. I was like, I had all the lemonade stands. I had all kinds of weird little crazy ideas there. And so it actually ended up being such a blessing to be laid off, because I got to stay at home with my son for a while, and really be present for that. But then as I was kind of getting a little antsy, I wanted to start a side business, and that's when I started this blog. I had an in-home wine tasting business for a little while too, and that's kind of where I saw the power of social media. And so
it must have been really early days.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was early. Yeah, it was really early. It was when things were just getting started for Facebook pages and stuff like that. And so what I had people doing is they were telling me, hey, I see what you're doing with your wine business. I can see that you're growing it using Facebook and Twitter. Could you show me how to do it? And so then I was like, yeah, so I started doing kind of some on the side consulting with that.
That's so funny, because mine was I left self-employment as I was working in the franchise world, so I became a franchise consultant, and my journey through was also 2007. So and nobody was buying the franchise consulting, but what they did want is, because I was starting to investigate blogging and the social side for my own use, like you say.
Right.
They're like, oh, but could you tell me a bit about this Twitter thing? I was like, well, no one's going to pay me to give them advice on social media.
Yeah.
But then it all like kicked off and flipped, the other way.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's wild how it happens, right? It's just like all of us. And I think that's what it is. It's being open to following the curiosity in what people are asking for. And I think that's what's been part of the pivoting along my business as well, is that I see where the needs are and people are asking for more of this. And so you just, move towards that as long as that thing is bringing you joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not just hop, skipping and jumping each time someone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
right.
with your online, I know we'll talk about your podcast, because I'm interested to hear what if you're building a product around that as well. But I'm interested with your online programs, because I run my group program, and at the moment my feedback bits are quite intensive, because I spend a lot of one-to-one, because I'm still growing that group program, but you're quite a while in. How do you keep ensuring that you're solving the right problem, if that makes sense, within the program? Yeah,
for sure. For sure. That's a huge thing, because especially when you start getting more and more people in, people have different needs and have different things. And of course, as entrepreneurs, we are idea factories, right? We're like, woo, let's go for all the things. But it is about, like taking in surveys, trying to ask the right questions so that you're really understanding the needs of the group and making sure it's a fit for the program too. So it is a challenging to kind of make decisions, because we're always making a decision on the types of time we need to invest into something. I think that's, and of course money, there's always like, if you need to build something new or hire someone or whatever to support it. Yeah. So I am always a big proponent of doing little tests first and kind of having little launches to see what's going to fit. Like I've been doing some profitable ads 6-week workshops to see, how is that taking off? Or is that something like live workshops versus, on-demand training versus one-on-one, things like that.
So almost experimenting with format, but then maybe doing something in a mini way just to test the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want to launch them. The worst thing is building this whole thing that someone doesn't need and guessing on that. Because that happened to me for my very first product. I did 31 days to, I think it was like 31 days to social media mastery, or 30 days or something to social media mastery. And the idea was it was a video every day.
Oh God.
And I know. And I sold 2. So I worked so hard on it, and I just sold 2. And, the thing that actually was funny is that a lot of people might be discouraged from that, but I was like, hey, someone bought something from me.
I'm kind of happy about the two.
I mean, it was tons of work, and if I'd calculated the dollars per hour, I probably would have cried. But at the same time, I saw the potential, and I thought, you know what? That was too much. I got feedback. That's what I always do when I have a launch. I'll say, why didn't you buy? And try and get some feedback. And of course, you ignore some of the
nonsense.
I have no money. I have no, you know, some of the stuff is an excuse, but you have to try and dig a little bit deeper into what the real objection is. And so then I said, okay, that was too long. Let's do something else. And I sold more the next time because I really pared it down and made it more streamlined and took the feedback from people. So that's what it's about.
That's really good advice. So tell me now about the podcast, which I'm interested about, but then have you created a product to go along with that, or?
Yeah. So the idea with the podcast, so what happened with me is I got kind of burnt out iOS changes. That was exhausting. Yeah. You know, I got kind of burnt out from a lot of things. I was working really hard during COVID, which was kind of weird because I was having a lot of personal challenges as well. And it was tough. It was a tough couple of years. And I know it was tough for everybody. And so I was a little burnt out. And I said, what can I do to re-energize me? And I'd always thought about starting a podcast. And of course, people, you should start a podcast. But I never really wanted to make it about Facebook ads. And I thought, you won't
have very much to talk about in the end, would you? You kind of need something more that could go on.
Yeah. And so I decided that I said, what is something that I'm passionate about, that I have a message about, that I think that will also inspire me. And so I started this Late Starters Club and podcast, and it's all about people who started something new in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. And it has been so energizing, so exciting. It's got its own whole brand on its own. I'm certainly a big part of it. Like, my picture is everywhere on the brand, but it has its own branding. And the idea with it is just to grow sponsorships, have another stream of income that's different than what I'm doing right now. And also really make that systematized so it's not taking up too much of my time and energy to create that. So eventually what I want to do is have more sponsorships on it, and probably have a membership where we're offering extra content, more content, bonus content through that. So that's the idea of where that's going.
And I see also, because I always advise podcasts, especially subject matter experts, because it's a really good way to, by you talking and demonstrating your skill and the conversation from a consultancy perspective, it's a really good channel to do. But I am interested in the monetizing of it, but I know you can do the paid subscriptions for podcasts, but you can also do, you'll probably know more, so I'm probably going to ask you this now anyway, but Instagram and subscriptions. Mm-hmm. How does that really work? I know that's a technical thing to ask you now. Yeah.
And I haven't really dove into that side of things, because I think what my goal is really to grow. I mean, there's so many different ways to grow your income right now. There's Patreon and blah, blah. There's lots of different decisions on how you're going to monetize that. And for me, I wanted to make the content really public. For the interviews and for the 2 other episodes I do each week. I do 3 episodes a week, and make that all free so that I'm growing the sponsorship side of it rather than having the individuals pay for the content. So that's kind of my eventual goal. And probably what I would do is, if I do a memberships piece of it, the membership would be on some sort of platform, maybe like Mighty Networks, or maybe some membership type of 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗑 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, it's really good. I'm really enjoying the podcast. I think it's a nice idea as well, because a lot of people don't really realize, entrepreneurs are not 20-somethings. There's a big chunk of entrepreneurs who are not.
Yes. Yeah, and people think, it's too late. I wanted to do that before, and so I didn't start stand-up comedy till I was almost 40. I didn't start competing in athletic events until I was 50. I didn't start, all this stuff. I started my business when I was 30, whatever, 39, or something like that. So, it definitely, like, you can start at a different age, and you have a lot of time left. So much time left.
Yeah, because the older, you'll retire and sit on your laurels, it just doesn't happen anymore.
No, who wants to do that? Boring. I think I'll be doing something, it doesn't, not that I'll be working 50 hours a week or anything, but you can definitely do lots of things. But
that's also the beauty of being a knowledge worker, isn't it? That you've got a bit of a diversification in how you can do things and diversify your income, isn't it? It's a smart way to do it. Right. right. For sure. I've had so much fun chatting to you, Andrea. Gosh, we could just carry on.
So
but I do need to bring the episode to a close. But if people want to find out a little bit more about you or your Facebook ad training or even about the podcast or the work you do, how can they find you?
Yeah, everything is at AndreaVahl.com, AndreaVahl.com. And that, you can see my podcast on there. You can see my stand-up comedy on there. You can get a link to my courses on there, all that stuff. And training, all that kind of thing.
We'll pop it into the show notes as well, so everybody. Which is your social media platform that you prefer the most in terms of chatting to your community?
It is Facebook.
It is Facebook.
Yeah.
I suppose you've got to be loyal to
Facebook. Still Facebook, yeah.
Oh dear, thank you so much for joining me today, Andrea, and sharing your journey with us and being really genuine. It's not always an easy thing to do, to talk about what goes on behind the scenes, I have to say.
No, thanks so much, Shelley. It was super fun, so fun.
You're a real pro to follow in this space, and I thoroughly enjoy your content. I love having you in my inbox and getting to chat to you, and we go to conferences whenever we get to do that again.
I know.
Your comic business genius is a delight to have in my world. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Shelley.
And that's it for this episode, folks. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to us today. Did that help you in perhaps tackling how to blend the business you with the personal you into something that feels right for you? Or even Andrea sharing about how she picked up and actioned the changes that have evolved her business over time. Who do you know that could do with hearing Andrea's story? Share this episode. Go on, you know you want to. Until next time, stay strong, believe you have value, and make good brand decisions.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Compass. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with your entrepreneurial friends and help them make good brand decisions. Until next time, let's keep the conversation going at 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗚𝗔𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏